Paulo, Brazil. Not that that has anything to do with what we're talking about today. I want to have kind of a chilled out conversation, and anybody is welcome to join if you want to jump in the conversation. I had a talk with a friend last night about a while ago. Actually, some of you may be familiar with the article. I'll show it to you. It's called "So You Realize I'm an Atheist," and I wrote this a while back on my YusefWateef.com account back in 2015. Wow. And he'd read the article and he wanted to go over some things. We went down these things point by point, and I'm not going to read all the points to you. I just want to open the door, and I called this one, Godless, Heathen Protection Service, because it occurred to me that there are people who are atheists who don't have anybody kind of looking out for them that they can talk to about it, that they can say, wow, I just wish people would not attack me. Part of the conversation revolved around what he called fanaticism. And one of his central tenets, one of his primary conceits, was that it is not religion or atheism that mattered, it is radical thought and fanatics. And this is where I began to get some pushback. I said, well, can you give me a few clear examples of radical atheists and what their behavior entails and whether or not they're a danger? We can all come up with radical, crazy, I'm going to say everything mean in the world about you because I'm an atheist and I think you're this and that. We can find that everywhere. Oh, hey, good morning, Cooper. Let me say good morning. I can't do two things at once, so whenever I say hello to somebody on the chat, I always have to look down at the keyboard because I can't even type. We can always find someone who's this rabid atheist who attacks people, and they type these evil memes and they write these bad words. But I challenged him and I said, can you give me an instance of one of them murdering someone? Can you give me an instance of someone being attacked by an atheist because they were someone who believed? Now, I'm sure there are atheists who commit crimes and get into fights and do bad things, but can you find me a few examples, contemporarily or in the past, where you can say, here's how they behave when they behave poorly? And that's when he began to see the awkwardness of the conversation. And I didn't attack him. I didn't go after him. And I didn't say, hey, look, I gotcha. I just wanted to continue the conversation and have that conversation in a way that would allow us to remain friends and, more importantly, speak to each other with love and respect. One of the things that I've learned after decades of my life using what I consider to be critical thinking and skepticism with everything is the quality of my life is quite good. If you show me evidence of something, I will believe it. If you can show me evidence that something exists or is real, I'll believe it. More so if other men who are respected give me that same evidence, and that evidence can be purported from here or there. And that's not just about religion or belief in supernatural. And when I say supernatural, please don't get upset, think I'm attacking your religion. It's all supernatural. The hard part of the discussion, the hard part of the conversation came in several small doses, because he kept trying to draw a comparison between atheists and people who believe. And he said, well, atheism is its own religion. And I said, really, can you give me the name or email address of the oversees it all? I said, well, no, I can't really do that because there is no sense. Exactly. It's not a religion. It's just a way of thought. He said, but you guys have something similar to church. And I said, no, we don't. He says, well, don't you have big organizations where everybody gets together to talk about atheism? And I said, you'd be amazed that the one thing we don't talk about is religion and atheism, because we like to talk to people who don't talk about that all the time. We like to talk about things in a way that others find offensive when we use critical thinking to look at things. Now, I always say my parents created a monster. A good chunk of my success I allocate to the fact that, my dad, my mom, my grandmother, my mother made sure I could read 3 grade levels ahead my entire life. I didn't know that until I was in high school. My earliest memories of my mother was of her reading one word, then me reading one word, then her reading a paragraph, then me reading a paragraph, so on and so forth, until I got to the point where I could read a book a month, which is a habit I still carry to this day. My father was giving me books that were well above my pay grade. I mean, he was hitting me with everything from Plato's Republic to Soul and Ice by Eldridge Cleaver when I was way too young to comprehend any of it. But he realized that if he just kept sledgehammering me in the face with things I couldn't comprehend, I'd just get better. It's kind of like being in the gym, and for those who don't know, I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and no-gi grappling, and going against somebody who outweighs me by 20, 30%. I'm probably not going to win if we're both even of equal skill. But when I go into my weight division, I've got a better chance. I had a grandmother, Aline Bray Thornton, who would make me recite poetry and prose in front of her for hours on end until I could pronounce each word correctly. And the problem with that is that as a child, I can see the difference between information, knowledge, and wisdom are two different things. As a child, I had knowledge. I had to learn to grow that knowledge into wisdom. But knowledge put me in a situation where I started to read everything I could get my hands on through the lens of critical thinking. And that created an issue. Critical thinking is something everyone enjoys applying to medicine. When you're sick, when you have a cough or an infection, you love scientists. You love knowing that you go to a doctor. But critical thinking is the one part of their life that they throw behind when it comes to religion. And I've got no problem with that all the way up until I realized people found it very uncomfortable when someone else doesn't follow their regime. And it's awkward. It's very awkward. And they say certain things to me. That I find they say over and over because, and this is, again, someone somewhere is going to intentionally misinterpret what I'm saying. When you use critical thinking and you do certain things and you have conversations with people who believe in religion, the types of questions they can ask you are very narrow in scope. And they don't realize that because they're coming from a very fixed position, they can't come up with newer questions. And they always start with things like, well, you seem so nice. And it's awkward because I said, well, to be nice, I have to believe that I will suffer an eternal consequence if I'm not. I thought being nice just got me stuff now. I'm nice kind of sometimes in a selfish way. I realized very early in life that if I'm just nice to people randomly, you never know who's that person who nobody was ever nice to before, and they can turn into one of your best friends. People were nice to me when they didn't have to be. They say things to me like, but your parents, didn't they teach you this? And I said, well, my parents taught me everything they could to give a shot at life. They surrounded me with people that they believed were good people, and at the same time, they armed me to be able to think for myself. Again, they created a monster. They did not create an atheist. I chose that path. Let's see. So I can't separate for them the fact that just because I'm a reasonable and decent man doesn't mean I have to believe in something bad happening to me later if I'm not. And it's awkward. And then they say things like, well, how come you never told me? And it's like, well, you didn't ask, and I'm secure enough in what I believe to not have to throw it out there. I mean, I believe that your religion or lack of religion is kind of like, your gun or your dick. It should only come out in very specific circumstances in which everybody understands what's about to happen with plenty of warning ahead of time. They say things to me like, well, I remember you were with us and we had this religious moment and you didn't say anything. And I said, well, what am I going to say? I sat there respectfully and listened while you enjoyed your religious moment. It wasn't awkward for me. It's awkward for you when you realize that I wasn't a part of it, but you're having a hard time processing that I could be more tolerant of your thoughts than you are of mine. And it's something that you see over and over. And then we get to the classic ones. Well, don't you believe in the devil? No, I believe in evil. I believe that people do horrible things that they should be held accountable for. But I'm not going to let anybody scapegoat their way out of anything by gods or devils or demons and angels. No. In the age of critical thinking, I realize that people get a choice in life. You get to choose how you're going to treat the next person. And if you choose badly, you can't put that off on somebody else. But part of the human condition is that we want to believe that there is no such thing as the cold indifference of the universe, as someone smarter than I once said. That cold indifference, that means there are people out there who don't care at all about you or anyone else that they know or don't know, and they're going to do something terrible. And we want to rationalize that and say, well, it must have been evil. It must have been bad. And that's just not it can be bad and it can be evil, but it can't be the supernatural. And that's something that I've always had a difficult time talking to people about. It's just easier. It's comforting to believe that someone made them do it, but and then they get to the big ones, How do you explain the sun and the moon and the flowers and the beauty of the human eye and the intricacy of the human body? Easy, I don't know. But I do know that throughout all written history, anything that we don't know now, if enough men put enough years and enough brain power into it, we'll just figure it out. Because you find that the domain of religion or the supernatural is wherever the last point of your knowledge was. There was a time when everything that we consider a modern convenience now was considered downright evil. There are epileptics in my family, and I wonder how many of them in ages past were executed because they were possessed. Then we find out, no, it's actually something misfiring in the brain, and through surgery or medicine, we can stitch that up again. But I wonder how many people were burned to death, hung, threw into the ocean with a brick around their ankles because of that. I don't know the answers to the future, and I don't know a lot of the answers to the questions. Nobody knows. But what I do know is that we'll figure it out. And when we figure that out, the goalpost will move, and they'll say, well, no. That's not where religion gave you the answer. That's not where theology led you. It's the point past that. So you really can't have that discussion. The other one, what if you're wrong? That's a big one. If I'm wrong, I'm okay with that. Because part of being an atheist, at least the interpretation that I and the friends that I have always had with it, we may not know everything. We actually know very little. And if we're wrong, there's no problem at all with that. If we're wrong, I'll have to accept that, because what else am I going to do? And that's a terrible thing to some people who don't understand that. Who don't understand that there may be a situation in which I have to learn more. And the awkwardness always comes when I say the people who are atheists are not stone walls. If you give us evidence as to something that we didn't know before, we'll just believe that. Religion is the only area in which you are completely, if you are adhering to your faith, you are completely forbidden from believing that those words or those truths can change, despite how much critical thinking and scientific evidence proves otherwise. And that's where it gets even weirder and weirder, to speak in terrible English. It gets weirder and weirder when you realize I'm okay with adjusting my thought patterns with new evidence presented, whereas no one who adheres to any religion can. And that makes the conversations even harder to deal with. I don't know where I'm going with this. It was one of those situations where he became awkward when he realized it wasn't awkward for me. And I'll tell you a dirty secret about anybody who's an atheist, and forgive me if I'm repeating myself. We've had the same questions asked since the day we first openly declared our preference for critical thinking. The problem with theology is that the number and style of questions that you can bring to me are extraordinarily limited, but you don't know that. They're always searching for a new way to pose a question that has been proposed thousands of times to thousands of people across thousands of countries and across an infinite number of universes. And that's actually a very small scope. And so you struggle to make someone realize, I've heard this before with a different voice and a different face, but I'm going to give you the answer that you need so that you can feel as if I just thought this up because you're so clever. Again, I always say a man only has one true enemy, and that is his ego. My ego won't allow me to believe that I know everything, because that's what I'm going to start fucking up in life. I wake up every morning assuming everybody else is smarter, stronger, or faster. So I get out there and hustle. I assume the other guy knows more, so I got to learn more. And I'm skeptical of anyone or institution that tells me there's not more to learn. Thank you for going on this, I guess, I would call it a rant, but I guess it's kind of chilled out to be a rant because it wasn't that emotional. I don't even know. Maybe I should put rant in the title. No, I'm not going to put rant in the title because then people come looking for blood. It's not me. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen. For the record, if you're still with me, make sure you click the thumbs up button and the subscribe button, because those things matter. More importantly, I always want to show everybody who I am and what I do because I don't make any money off Google or YouTube or any of that stuff. I am an editor, writer, ghostwriter, proofreader. I do resumes. I often coach people in public speaking. Who don't speak English as their first language, but they have to do perhaps a TED Talk or something like that, where they have to be able to present themselves in English as well as they do in their own native language. I'm going to show you guys another way you can contact me. If you want to catch me professionally, you can catch me on my LinkedIn page. If not, you can message me here. If you have any questions or comments, drop them below. Having said that, love everybody, and I hope everybody has a great day. Let me stop screen there. But yeah, I just wanted to give you a few minutes out of my morning, and this isn't the end of the conversation. This is not the end. This is the beginning. I'm looking forward for information that I don't have. Looking forward to anybody who wants to have a clever chat and talk about things with me. If you can bring me information I didn't have, I appreciate it. If I can enlighten you, hey, that's great too. Other than that, I hope everybody has a great day, and I hope your mornings are going as well as mine. Bye-bye.